Hey guys, I'm Steve Richert and you're watching The Adventure RX. Our goal here is to get you to discover and explore the joy of being outside with a camera. And I've decided to narrow my focus down to adventure and photography and kind of that overlap between getting out of your comfort zone and creating something from that experience. Because in short, that's the one thing that I am the most passionate about. So what you might not know is that while I just fell off the turnip truck and landed here on YouTube about 9 months ago, and where I really started to create content on this platform, I've actually been creating content on social media on different channels like Instagram and Facebook, Twitter, and also my blog, which is at livingvertical.org, and also through a podcast. And I've had a pretty decent following for the work that I've done on all these other channels, and I've put a lot of time and effort into building that up. And where it all started was with a documentary and a photo project. Now, before I tell you about that, I should explain that when I started all of this 5 years ago, I had never made a video and I had never done anything other than just snapshot photography. I'd done a little bit of writing and blogging in the most basic cursory form of that, but never anything consistent and never anything where I was trying to build a community or build a following or tell a story. And so the story that I wanted to tell when I started this whole journey out 5 years ago was about living life with diabetes, but not having diabetes as your identity, but the things that we could still do, and having a chronic illness, how that doesn't have to limit us, and that anything is possible. Because growing up with type 1 diabetes, I never looked at myself as somebody first with diabetes. I always looked at myself as, the person that I wanted to be, or the things that inspired me and the things that were positive in my life. Those were what I created my identity around, and diabetes was just a task. So I decided to make a documentary and tell this story. And in that process, over the last 5 years, before I got to YouTube, I had a following built up as I went through the process of learning how to photograph adventures and tell that story. And I spent 1 year climbing every single day, photographing and video recording every single day, and I turned that into a documentary project that I'm going to link below here that you can check out, and you can see what my first attempt at all of this was with no background in any of this. And recently I realized that the project that I did, Project 365, that was about diabetes. And in the process of doing that project, I wound up accidentally becoming a photographer. But it's only recently that I've realized that that happened, and I've decided to narrow my focus down to adventure and photography and kind of that overlap between getting out of your comfort zone and creating something from that experience. Because in short, that's the one thing that I am the most passionate about. All of the following, aside from YouTube, had all been based around this project. And it's taken me 3 years since I completed that project to realize that what I'm doing, it's not about diabetes, it's about what I've learned to do with my diabetes. And that I don't really want to dwell on my diabetes. I don't want to create content about diabetes. And here's why. There's a big misunderstanding about the importance of identity. When I was diagnosed, I made no room whatsoever for diabetes as part of my identity. I viewed it strictly as a task, as a thing that I had to do, like brushing my teeth, like doing the paperwork after I go to the bathroom. It was I was very detached from it. It was a thing that I had to do. An important thing that I had to do, but I didn't connect it to my identity. It didn't become part of who I saw myself as. I saw myself as a climber first. up till that point, it never once crossed my mind that this was not completely normal and that everybody didn't just detach themselves, execute the tasks that they had to do, and, focus on living their life. And I had to kind of make diabetes part of my identity in order to communicate this message that diabetes doesn't have to control our destiny and our identity. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years or so, has been really just being Steve, the guy with diabetes that tries to inspire other people through climbing and adventure media. But one of the things that occurred to me recently, since I got on YouTube, because YouTube has been like starting all over again. I have 11,000 people and change that follow me on Instagram, but I don't have those people following me directly to YouTube because that's where they are. So on YouTube, it was like, here I am starting again after 4 years, and I really had to say to myself, what am I about? And I realized, or part of me, I realized that I'm not really about diabetes anymore. Like, I said what I had to say about it, I made my point, but that once you're kind of at the end of that chapter, what are you gonna do? And so I kept trying to weave it into what I was putting here on YouTube, but it just didn't feel right because of the fact that it wasn't what I felt in my heart. It wasn't authentic in a lot of ways. But it was the last thing that I had experienced growth and success with. So I felt like, well, that's what I need to keep doing because I want to have success. I want to reach people. And I do believe fully in the message of awareness for type 1 diabetes and that we don't have to be limited. I sincerely hope that I can inspire people to pursue their dreams. But what I realized, because I had to start over here on YouTube, was that the best way to do that isn't talking about diabetes. It's by going out and living my life. I've found that it's had a really negative impact on me psychologically to always have the subtext of my life be with diabetes. I'm out taking pictures with diabetes. I'm out climbing stuff with diabetes. I was up Kilimanjaro with diabetes. That was always the subtext in my mind, and dwelling on that constantly, it was just really, really unhealthy for me. So I decided to say, you know what? This is an opportunity. My passion, the thing that I'm most excited about and that I want to share the most with other people, is simple. Get outside, grab a camera, and explore stuff. Because we all have stories to tell. The way that I learned this was telling my story with diabetes, and that turned me on to this concept of telling stories with a camera and exploring a creative, adventurous life, which is something that everybody can do. You don't have to climb Kilimanjaro. You don't have to be a professional photographer to go outside, look for something different, and find a way to make something out of it. It's about a process that we can participate in, and that in order for that process to be something healthy, we have to be passionate about it and we have to love it. And that is the answer to the challenges of chronic illness and to the challenges that everybody has, even if you don't have a chronic illness. That's why this show is called The Adventure RX, because for me, adventure and photography have been like medicine. And so instead of talking about the condition, my focus is now talking about the solution. And when diabetes is relevant, I'm proud of the fact that I do this stuff with diabetes, but I don't really want to dwell on it. I want to dwell on the stuff and focus on the stuff that really has value that I can give to other people. And so that's part of the reason why this channel has been all over the shop up till this point, and hopefully this explains a little bit about what I'm changing and why I'm changing it. I hope some of this makes sense to you. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear your comments, and I totally understand if none of this is of any interest to you, but if this is something that sounds interesting to you, if any of this resonates with you, go ahead and subscribe to this channel, because I'm excited to move forward and to push my limits, to get out of my comfort zone, both creatively with the camera and also physically in terms of my climbing and backpacking and just learning to find adventure and learning to create something and continuing that journey, because I've been doing that for 5 years, but the way I look at this, I'm going to be doing this in one form or another as long as I'm on this earth, because it's part of what keeps me healthy and keeps me happy, and I want to share that with you guys at every possible opportunity that I have. I'm Steve Richert. This is the Adventure RX, and I hope to see you guys in the next episode.